You know that sound? That piercing, relentless beeping that cuts through your sleep like a knife? That's how my Saturday morning started. Not with an alarm clock. Not with birds chirping outside my window. No. It was my smart lock screaming at me that someone was trying to break into my home. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I grabbed my phone, my hands shaking, and looked at the security app. 6 failed entry attempts. 7, 8. Someone was out there, punching in code after code, trying to force their way into my house. And then, I heard the voice. That voice that used to comfort me when I was a child. That voice that sang me lullabies and told me everything would be okay. But this morning, that voice was screaming through my door like a banshee from hell. Open this door. This is your father's place. You have no right to keep us out. My mother. My own mother was outside my door at 7 in the morning, demanding I let her in. And she wasn't alone. I could hear my brother pounding on the door, his fists hammering against the wood so hard I thought it might splinter. Do you know what it feels like to be terrified in your own home? To feel like the walls you painted, the floors you cleaned, the mortgage you paid every single month for 8 years, none of it matters because the people who are supposed to love you are treating you like a criminal? I sat there on my bed, frozen, as my mother continued to scream. We know you're in there, Abby. You need to sign these papers. This is family business. Don't make us do this the hard way. Papers. She wanted me to sign papers. At 7 in the morning, breaking into my house, because apparently, family means you don't need permission. Family means you can violate someone's privacy, their safety, their peace of mind, and it's all justified because we share blood. If you've ever felt trapped by your family's expectations, drop a comment below and share your experience. You're not alone in this. You want to know the worst part? This wasn't even the first time. This was just the moment everything came crashing down. The moment I realized that the life I thought I was building, the future I thought I was securing it, was all a lie. Let me take you back. Just one night before this nightmare at my door. One night that should have been normal. Family dinner. Something I used to look forward to, believe it or not. Before I knew better. I remember walking into that restaurant, seeing my mother's smile, my brother's casual wave. I thought, maybe tonight will be different. Maybe tonight we can just be a normal family. God, I was so naive. We ordered food, small talk, the usual questions about work, about life. And then, just as I was starting to relax, just as I was taking a bite of my pasta, my mother dropped it, casual as anything, like she was commenting on the weather. You know, Abby, this house you're living in, it was always meant for your brother. I choked. Actually choked on my food. I grabbed my water glass, coughing, tears streaming down my face, and not just from the pasta stuck in my throat. My brother laughed. Actually laughed. Like it was the funniest joke he'd ever heard. Mom's right, he said, grinning at me like we were sharing some inside joke. Dad always said that condo would be mine one day. You're just keeping it warm for me. Keeping it warm. Keeping it warm. Like I was some kind of house sitter. Like the 8 years I'd lived there, the $80,000 I'd paid in mortgage payments, the blood, sweat, and tears I'd poured into making that place a home, it was all just temporary. Just until the real owner came to claim what was his. My mother reached across the table and patted my hand. And you know what she said? You know what this woman who raised me, who taught me about honesty and integrity, said to me? Don't look so upset, honey. It's not personal. It's just how things are. Family takes care of family. And right now, your brother needs this more than you do. Not personal. Not personal. How is stealing someone's home not personal? How is erasing 8 years of someone's life not personal? But I didn't say anything. I sat there like an idiot, nodding, smiling weakly, pretending like my world wasn't imploding right there over chicken parmesan and breadsticks. Because that's what I'd been trained to do my whole life. Smile. Nod. Don't make waves. Be the good daughter. Be the one who sacrifices. And God, had I sacrificed? I gave up New York. Did you hear that? I gave up my dream of getting my master's degree at Pratt Institute, one of the best design schools in the country. I had the acceptance letter. I had the financial aid package. I had my whole life planned out in that beautiful, chaotic, expensive city where I could finally be myself. But then my father got sick. And my mother called me crying, saying they couldn't afford the medical bills, saying they needed help, saying, Abby, you're the responsible one. You're the one we can count on. So I stayed. I stayed in Austin. I took a job I didn't want. I kept paying my mortgage. I sent them money every month. Every single month. For 3 years, I wired them $2,000, $24,000 a year, $72,000 total. You want to know what they used it for? I found out later. My brother's gambling debts, my mother's online shopping addiction, a timeshare in Florida they never even used, not my father's medical bills. Those were covered by insurance. They lied to me. They manipulated me. They stole my dreams, my money, my future, and they did it with tears in their eyes, and, "We love you," on their lips. If you've ever sacrificed your dreams for your family, hit that like button, and let's start a conversation. Your journey matters. So there I was, Saturday morning, listening to them pound on my door, and I realized something. I realized that if I didn't stand up right now, right this moment, I would lose everything. Not just the house, not just the money, but myself, my dignity, my future, everything that made me, me. I grabbed my phone and opened the camera app. My hands were still shaking, but I steadied them. I took a deep breath. And I walked to that door. You should have seen their faces when I opened it with my phone held up, recording. My brother had been mid-swing, probably about to put his shoulder into the door, and he stumbled back like I'd slapped him. My mother's eyes went wide, and then narrow. Angry. How dare I record them? How dare I not trust my own family? She was holding this thick manila folder, clutching it to her chest like it was some kind of sacred text, and in her mind, maybe it was. Maybe those loan papers represented everything she thought she was entitled to. My life, my credit, my home, all wrapped up in a neat little package, just waiting for my signature. "Put that phone away, Abby," she hissed at me. "This is family business. We don't need cameras." Family business. There's that phrase again, the magical words that are supposed to make everything okay. The words that are supposed to erase boundaries, privacy, basic human decency. I looked at my brother. At this man who used to protect me on the playground, who used to let me tag along with his friends, even when it wasn't cool. When did he become this? When did he become someone who would try to break down my door? Someone who would stand by while our mother committed fraud? My voice came out stronger than I expected. Stronger than I felt. "No, this isn't your father's house. This is mine. It always has been." I held up my phone higher, making sure I had both of their faces in the frame, and then I showed them what I'd pulled up on my other screen. 8 years of mortgage statements. Every single payment. Every single transaction. All with my name, my bank account, my money. "See this?" I said, and I could hear my voice cracking, could feel the tears starting to burn behind my eyes, but I pushed through. 8 years, 96 payments, $83,412. Not a single payment from Dad, not a single payment from either of you. This house is mine. My mother's face went through about 15 different expressions in 5 seconds. Shock, anger, calculation, and then, finally, that look. That manipulative, guilt-tripping look that had worked on me my entire life. "Abby, honey, you're being dramatic. We're not trying to take anything from you. We just need you to sign these papers so we can help your brother get back on his feet. He's struggling, and you have so much. Can't you just help family? Can't you just help family? Help family. Always help family. Even when family is draining you dry. Even when family is stealing from you. Even when family is destroying you piece by piece. Get out." The words came from somewhere deep inside me, somewhere I didn't even know existed. "Get out of my house. Get off my property. And don't come back." My brother stepped forward, all aggressive posture and puffed up chest. "You're really going to throw us out? Your own family? Wait until everyone hears about this. Wait until they hear how selfish you are." And you know what? That threat used to work. That fear of what other people would think, what the extended family would say, what the neighbors would whisper. It used to control me completely. But standing there, watching these two people who were supposed to love me try to manipulate and intimidate me on my own doorstep, something broke inside me, or maybe something finally healed. "Record it," I said. "Tell everyone. Put it on Facebook, Instagram, wherever you want. Tell them how I refused to let you commit fraud. Tell them how I wouldn't let you steal my home. See how sympathetic they are." I closed the door, locked it, turned off the smart lock completely, and engaged the deadbolt, and then I slid down to the floor and cried. I cried for the family I thought I had, for the mother I thought loved me unconditionally, For the brother I thought would always have my back. I cried for 8 years of being used. For all the dreams I'd given up. For the version of myself who had believed that sacrifice was the same as love. Ever had to fight for something that was rightfully yours? Comment, I stand my ground, if you've ever taken a stand in the face of betrayal. But I didn't cry for long. Because about 20 minutes later, as I was sitting there on my floor, my phone buzzed, a notification from my credit monitoring app. And what I saw made my blood run cold. A hard inquiry, from a bank I'd never worked with, for a home equity line of credit, on MY House, using MY Social Security number, filed 3 days ago. My mother hadn't just been trying to get me to sign papers, she'd already applied for a loan, using my identity. Using personal information I'd given her years ago for emergency contacts and family records, she'd committed identity theft. My own mother had stolen my identity, and tried to take out a loan against my house. I couldn't breathe. The room started spinning. This wasn't just manipulation anymore. This wasn't just emotional abuse or family drama. This was a crime, an actual, prosecutable crime. And she'd done it without a second thought. How many times had she told me she loved me? How many times had she hugged me and said I was her precious daughter? How many birthday cards had she signed with, "Love always, Mom"? And all the while, she'd been planning this, waiting for the right moment to cash in on my identity, my credit, my life. I pulled up my full credit report with shaking hands. There it was. The inquiry. The pending HELOC application. For $150,000. $150,000 that she could have taken against my house, destroying my equity, destroying my credit, leaving me with debt I never agreed to. And you know what the worst part was? The application had already been approved, pending my signature. The signature she'd been trying to force from me that morning. If I had signed those papers, if I had been tired enough, confused enough, guilty enough to just sign, I would have validated a fraudulent loan application. I would have made myself complicit in my own destruction. I felt sick. Actually, physically sick. I ran to the bathroom and threw up. Everything from the night before, everything from that morning, it all came up, as my body rejected not just the food, but the reality of what had almost happened. Have you ever realized you were the victim of fraud? If this story is hitting home, tag someone who needs to hear this. Together, we can fight back. When I finally stopped shaking enough to stand up, I knew what I had to do. I called the bank. My voice was hoarse, my throat raw, but I forced out the words. I need to report fraud. Someone has applied for a home equity line of credit using my information without my permission. The bank representative was professional, calm, walking me through the process. Yes, they could freeze the application. Yes, they would open an investigation. Yes, I would need to file a police report. And yes, I would need to provide evidence that the application was fraudulent. Evidence. I had plenty of evidence. 8 years of mortgage statements showing I was the sole payer. Text messages from my mother about the loan. The recording from this morning. My credit report showing I'd never initiated this inquiry. But there was one piece of evidence I needed that I didn't have yet. I needed to prove that my mother was the one who filed the application. And for that, I needed to get my hands on that manila folder she'd been carrying. I spent the rest of that day documenting everything. Screenshots of every text message, downloads of every email, copies of every mortgage statement. I created a timeline, starting from when I bought the house 8 years ago, through every payment, every conversation about the house, every hint that my family saw this property as theirs and not mine. I found things I'd forgotten about. Text messages from 3 years ago, where my mother had asked if she could be added to the deed, just in case something happens to you, honey. Emails where my brother had asked for the spare key, saying he needed a place to crash, just for a few weeks, that had turned into 3 months. Voicemails where my father, before he passed, had drunkenly rambled about how that condo was supposed to be an investment for the family. Every piece of evidence was another knife in my heart. Every message was proof that I'd never been seen as an individual with my own rights, my own property, my own life. I'd always been just a resource. A bank account with legs, a credit score to exploit. And then my phone rang. My mother. I almost didn't answer, but I needed more evidence. So I answered, and I recorded. Abby, we need to talk about this morning. You embarrassed us in front of the neighbors. Not, I'm sorry for trying to break into your house. Not, I'm sorry for committing fraud. Just concern about embarrassment, about appearances. You committed identity theft, Mom. You applied for a loan, using my social security number without my permission. Silence. Long, heavy silence. And then, don't be so dramatic. I'm your mother. I have every right to use your information for family matters. That's not theft, that's just being practical. Just being practical. Fraud is practical now. Identity theft is practical. Destroying your daughter's credit and financial future is practical. I've frozen the application, I said, my voice steady, even though my hands were shaking. And I've filed a fraud report with the bank. If you try to access my credit or my property again, I'll file a police report. You would call the police on your own mother? Over money? After everything I've done for you? Everything she'd done for me. Like giving birth to me? Like raising me? Things that were her choice, her responsibility as a parent? And now I owed her my house, my credit, my entire financial future? What you did is illegal, Mom. It's not about the money. It's about you committing a crime against me. She hung up, just disconnected. And within 5 minutes, my phone started blowing up. Texts from aunts and uncles, Facebook messages from cousins, all of them saying the same thing. How could you treat your mother this way? Family doesn't call each other criminals. Family forgives. Family forgives. Always forgive. Always forget. Never hold anyone accountable. Just let them keep hurting you, keep using you, keep destroying you, because family. My brother posted on Facebook a long, rambling post about how I'd stolen his inheritance, how I was a selfish daughter, how I'd betrayed the family legacy. He made it sound like I'd swindled some kind of family fortune, rather than the reality. I'd bought a house with my own money, and refused to let them steal it. The comments were brutal. People I'd known my whole life, calling me ungrateful, selfish, cold-hearted, telling my mother they'd pray for her, telling my brother they'd help him fight this. And then the reviews started. On my business page. My design consulting business that I'd built from nothing, that I'd poured my heart into, suddenly flooded with 1-star reviews. Terrible designer, stole money from client, unprofessional and rude. Would give 0 stars if I could. Scam artist who doesn't deliver. None of them were from real clients. They were all from fake accounts, many with profile pictures of landscapes or cartoon characters. My brother's work, obviously. My family's way of punishing me for standing up for myself. I watched my business rating drop from 4.8 stars to 3.2 stars in one day. I watched potential clients email me asking about the concerning reviews. I watched a contract I'd been negotiating for weeks fall through because the client had concerns about my professionalism. This was the cost of standing up. This was what happened when you told family no. They didn't just walk away, they tried to destroy you. If you've ever taken action to protect yourself from a scam, smash that like button. You're a warrior. But I refused to back down. I documented every fake review, screenshot every fake profile. I reported them to the platform. I sent cease and desist letters drafted by a lawyer friend who was horrified by what my family was doing. And I kept gathering evidence. I found out that my mother had done this before. To my aunt, she'd taken out a credit card in Aunt Marlene's name 15 years ago, racked up $30,000 in debt, and then acted shocked when Marlene confronted her. She'd cried, played the victim, said she was confused about the documents she'd signed, and Marlene, wanting to keep peace in the family, had paid off the debt herself, rather than press charges. I called Aunt Marlene. I asked her if she'd testify if it came to that, tell the truth about what our mother had done to her, and you know what she said? Through tears, through pain, that was 15 years old, but clearly still fresh. Yes, I'll tell them everything. Someone needs to stop her. I should have pressed charges back then. Maybe if I had, you wouldn't be going through this now. I thanked her. I cried with her. And I added her testimony to my growing mountain of evidence. And then my mother tried one more time. She called a family meeting. Demanded I attend. Said it was time to resolve this situation like adults. I knew it was a trap. I knew they wanted to ambush me, pressure me, manipulate me into backing down, but I was done backing down, so I agreed to meet. But I came prepared. I walked into that restaurant, the same restaurant where this all started, carrying 3 binders, 3 massive binders, each labeled with a family member's name. Mom, brother, and one labeled evidence. They were already sitting there when I arrived. My mother with her sympathetic face, my brother with his aggressive posture, and several other family members they'd recruited as backup. Uncle Jerry, cousin Michelle, even my grandmother, sitting there, looking frail and confused. They'd brought in the elders, the guilt trippers, the people whose disappointment was supposed to break me. I sat down, placed the binders on the table, and smiled. "I'm glad everyone could make it," I said. "Since we're all here, I thought it would be good to share some information." I opened the first binder. 8 years of mortgage statements. I passed it around the table. "This is every payment I've made on the house. 96 payments, $83,412. My money, my bank account. My name on every single transaction." Uncle Jerry flipped through the pages, his eyes widening. Cousin Michelle looked confused. I opened the second binder. The fraudulent loan application. The credit inquiry. The text messages, where my mother had asked for my social security number years ago. "This is the home equity line of credit that was filed using my identity, without my permission, using personal information my mother obtained under false pretenses. This is identity theft. This is fraud. This is a federal crime, punishable by up to 30 years in prison." My mother's face went white. My brother started to stand up, but Uncle Jerry put a hand on his shoulder. I opened the third binder. Screenshots of the fake reviews. Testimony from Aunt Marlene about the credit card fraud from 15 years ago. A breakdown of the $72,000 I'd sent them over 3 years for medical bills that were never used for medical care. And this is the campaign of harassment that began when I refused to let myself be victimized. Defamation, libel, tortious interference with business relationships. I looked around the table. At my grandmother, who was crying. At my uncle, who looked genuinely shocked. At my cousin, who was staring at my mother with something like horror. "I didn't ask for this meeting to negotiate," I said. "I asked for this meeting so everyone would know the truth. So you'd all understand why I've filed a police report. Why I've frozen my credit. Why I've cut contact with certain family members. This isn't about being selfish. This isn't about being ungrateful. This is about stopping criminal behavior." My mother finally found her voice. "How can you do this? I'm your mother. I gave you life." And I looked at her. Really looked at her. At this woman who had manipulated me, stolen from me, tried to destroy my life, all while claiming it was out of love. "You gave me life," I said quietly. "And then you spent 32 years trying to control it, trying to take it back, trying to make it yours instead of mine. But it's my life, Mom, my house, my credit, my business, my future, and you have no right to any of it." I stood up, gathered my binders, and turned to leave. "If anyone needs copies of this evidence, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you in court." I walked out of that restaurant with my head held high, even though my legs were shaking so badly I could barely make it to my car. I sat in the parking lot and sobbed for 20 minutes straight, not because I regretted what I'd said, but because it hurt. God, it hurt so much to draw that line. To choose myself over family. To stand up, even when it meant standing alone. If you've ever had to stand up to family, let me know in the comments. It's your time to shine. The fallout was immediate and brutal. More family members blocked me on social media. More fake reviews appeared. I lost 3 clients in 1 week, all citing the concerning reports they'd heard. My business took a massive hit. My savings account started dwindling as I paid lawyers to fight the defamation, to pursue the fraud case, to protect my credit. There were days I wondered if standing up had been worth it. Days when I thought maybe I should have just signed the papers, let them take what they wanted, and kept the peace. But then something started to change. Real reviews started appearing, clients who'd actually worked with me defending my character, people calling out the fake reviews for what they were. The platform's fraud detection system finally kicked in and removed 37 fake reviews in one sweep. My neighbor, Ethan, who I'd barely spoken to, beyond polite waves, knocked on my door one evening. He had a USB drive in his hand. "I have something you need to see," he said. He'd been home the morning my family tried to break in, and he'd filmed the whole thing from his security camera. My mother, trying different codes on my smart lock. My brother pounding on the door, screaming threats, both of them looking around nervously, clearly knowing what they were doing was wrong. "I heard what they've been saying about you online," Ethan said. "About how you're the crazy one, the one who's out of control. But I was there. I saw them. And you were just defending yourself." I cried. Again. I seem to be doing a lot of that lately. But these were grateful tears. Tears of relief, that someone, somewhere, believed me, that I had proof. that I wasn't crazy. I added Ethan's video to my evidence file. My lawyer was thrilled. "This changes everything," she said. "This shows clear intent to commit breaking and entering, harassment, intimidation. Combined with the fraud evidence, we have a strong case." And then Aunt Marlene called. She'd been at the family meeting my mother had brought her as a witness, probably thinking she'd stay quiet like she had 15 years ago. But seeing those binders, seeing the evidence, something had broken free in Marlene too. "I'm testifying," she said. "I'm telling them everything she did to me. And I'm suing her for the $30,000 I paid off for her fraud. I should have done this years ago." Suddenly, I wasn't alone anymore. Suddenly, I had allies. People who had been hurt by the same patterns, the same manipulation, the same abuse disguised as family love. The police investigation moved forward. The bank investigation concluded that the HELOC application was fraudulent. My credit was cleaned up, the hard inquiry removed, my score restored. And then I got an email. Just a normal Tuesday afternoon, sitting at my desk, trying to work on a logo design. And my phone buzzed. It was from Pratt Institute, the design school in New York. The dream I'd given up 8 years ago. "We noticed you were accepted to our program in 2017 but didn't enroll. We're reaching out to past accepted applicants for a special master's cohort starting in the fall. We'd love to have you reconsider your application." I read that email 5 times. 10 times. I couldn't believe it was real. This dream that I'd buried, that I'd sacrificed, that I'd mourned, suddenly it was being offered to me again. A second chance. A new beginning. I filled out the reapplication that night, stayed up until 3 in the morning, updating my portfolio, writing my statement of purpose, explaining the gap in my education timeline. I was honest, brutally honest. About family obligation, about sacrifice, about finally learning to put myself first. And then I hit submit, and allowed myself to hope. Maybe, just maybe, standing up for myself would lead somewhere better. Maybe reclaiming my life would open doors I thought were permanently closed. Never let negativity stop you. If you believe in second chances, share this with someone who needs a pick-me-up. While I waited to hear back from Pratt, my mother made one final attempt. She showed up at my door, not pounding, not yelling, but quiet, subdued. She looked smaller somehow, older. "Can we talk?" she asked through the door. Every instinct told me not to open it. Every painful memory screamed at me to walk away. But some small part of me, that daughter part that still remembered being tucked in at night, that still remembered her reading me stories, that part made me open the door. I didn't invite her in. I stood in the doorway, arms crossed, waiting. "I need you to drop the charges," she said. No apology, no remorse, just straight to her need. "No. Abby, please. Do you know what this is doing to the family? Everyone is talking. I'm humiliated. Your brother might lose his job if this gets out. Is that what you want? Is that what I want? Not, 'I'm sorry.' Not, 'I was wrong.' Not, 'I understand why you're hurt.' Just concern about appearances. About consequences for her actions finally catching up to her. What I want," I said, and my voice was steel, "is for you to take responsibility for what you did. What I want is for you to acknowledge that you committed a crime against me. What I want is for you to understand that you can't treat people this way, family or not." She looked at me with genuine confusion, like I was speaking a foreign language. "But I'm your mother. Everything I did was for the family." "No," I said. "Everything you did was for yourself. You wanted money, you wanted control. You wanted to give my brother a house he hadn't earned, hadn't paid for, hadn't worked for. And you were willing to destroy me to make it happen. That's not family. That's not love. That's abuse." I watched her face cycle through emotions. Anger, denial, calculation, and finally, something that might have been fear. "If you don't drop this, I'll never speak to you again." The threat that used to work. The threat that used to send me scrambling to apologize, to fix things, to make peace. But now? "Then don't," I said. "I'd rather have no mother than one who steals from me." I closed the door, locked it, and this time, when I slid down to the floor, I wasn't crying. I was breathing. Deep, clean breaths. The kind of breaths you take when a weight has been lifted off your chest. I was free. Finally, completely free. The legal case moved forward. My mother was charged with identity theft and fraud. My brother was charged with cyber harassment and defamation. They both pled out, agreeing to restitution and probation, rather than face trial. I got my money back. Not just the HELOC money that was stopped before it was dispersed, but the $72,000 I'd sent them over the years. The court ordered full restitution, with interest, and Aunt Marlene got her $30,000 back too. She called me crying when the first payment hit her account. "I never thought I'd see this money again," she said. "I never thought justice was possible." But the best part? The absolute best part of this entire nightmare? 3 weeks after that final confrontation with my mother, I got another email from Pratt. "Congratulations. We are pleased to offer you admission." I was in. I was actually in. I'd been given my dream back. You deserve to win. You deserve to reclaim what's yours. If this story made you feel seen, hit that subscribe button. Let's fight for our futures together. I stood in my living room, in my house that I paid for with my money, and I looked around. 8 years of memories, 8 years of fighting to keep this place, 8 years of being told it wasn't really mine. And now I could sell it if I wanted, move to New York, start over, or I could keep it, rent it out, have a home base to return to. The choice was mine. Finally, completely, totally mine. I chose to sell it, not because I had to, not because anyone was forcing me, but because this house had become a symbol of everything I'd been fighting against. Every wall held memories of manipulation. Every room echoed with guilt trips and obligation. I wanted to start fresh. Completely fresh. With money that was mine, in a city where no one knew my family history, pursuing a dream that I'd thought was dead. The house sold in 2 weeks. I got $20,000 more than I'd paid for it, thanks to the Austin market boom. I packed up 8 years of life into a moving truck, said goodbye to Ethan and the few neighbors who'd supported me, and I drove away. I didn't look back. Not once. New York welcomed me with rain and humidity and noise and crowds, and everything that should have been overwhelming, but instead felt like freedom. I found a tiny studio apartment in Brooklyn, barely bigger than my old living room, and I loved it. I loved it. Because it was mine, and only mine, and no one was going to try to take it from me. Pratt was everything I dreamed it would be. Challenging, inspiring, exhausting. I was surrounded by people who understood the language of design, who got excited about typography and color theory and spatial relationships. I was home in a way I'd never been home before. 6 months into the program, I was sitting in a design studio at 2 in the morning, working on a project that was due in 6 hours, running on coffee and determination, and I was happy. Completely, genuinely happy. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. "This is your brother. Mom had a heart attack. She's in the hospital. She's asking for you." I stared at that message for a long time, waiting to feel something. Guilt, fear, concern. That old pull to drop everything and run to her side. But all I felt was tired. Tired of the manipulation. Tired of the guilt trips. Tired of being treated like I owed her my life because she gave birth to me. I texted back, "I hope she recovers. I won't be coming." And I turned my phone off and went back to work. 2 days later, I learned she was fine. It had been a minor incident, barely worth hospitalization, but my brother had hoped the scare would bring me running back, would make me forget everything that had happened, would reset us back to the old dynamic, where I was the one who sacrificed everything for family. It didn't work. None of it worked anymore. I'd broken free of that cycle, and I was never going back. It's time to take control. Let me know if you've ever had to draw a hard line. Type "I'm in control" in the comments. I graduated from Pratt 18 months later, top of my class. My thesis project of visual exploration of familial trauma and reclaiming personal space won the departmental award. It was featured in a design magazine. People I'd admired for years reached out to tell me how much my work resonated with them. Standing on that stage, holding my diploma, I thought about the woman I'd been 3 years ago. The woman who let her family walk all over her. The woman who thought love meant sacrifice, who thought family meant giving up everything, who thought standing up for herself made her selfish. I wished I could go back and tell her what I know now. That setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's survival. That family isn't supposed to hurt you, and when it does, you have every right to walk away. That your dreams matter just as much as anyone else's, and you don't have to set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. But I couldn't go back. None of us can. All we can do is move forward, taking the lessons we've learned, the scars we've earned, and the strength we've built. After graduation, I got offers from 3 different design firms in Manhattan, all of them prestigious, all of them offering salaries I'd never dreamed of making back in Austin. I accepted a position at a firm that specialized in brand identity for women-owned businesses. It felt right. Helping other women build something of their own, establish their own identities, claim their own space in the world. My first project was for a woman who'd left an abusive marriage with nothing but her skills and her determination. She'd built a bakery from scratch, and now she needed a brand that reflected who she was, not who she'd been forced to be. As I worked with her, designing her logo, her website, her packaging, I saw myself in her. That same fierce determination. That same refusal to be defined by the people who'd tried to break her. That same commitment to building something that was entirely, completely, unquestionably, hers. When I presented the final designs to her, she cried. "This is exactly who I am," she said. "This is exactly who I fought to become." And I understood then why I'd gone through everything I'd gone through. Not just to save myself, but to be able to help others save themselves too. To show them that it's possible to walk away from toxicity, even when it's wearing the mask of family, to prove that you can rebuild after betrayal, that you can thrive after trauma. My business, because yes, I started my own design consultancy on the side, grew faster than I expected. Word spread about the designer who specialized in identity reclamation. Women who'd left cults, people who'd escaped abusive families, individuals who'd broken free from toxic relationships. They all came to me, looking for someone who understood what it meant to rebuild from nothing. And I helped them, every single one, because I knew their pain. I'd lived it, I'd survived it, and I'd come out the other side stronger. 1 year after graduation, I was invited to speak at a business conference in Austin. The irony wasn't lost on me. Going back to the city I'd fled, the place where my nightmare had started, to talk about empowerment and success. I almost said no. The thought of being back there, possibly running into family members, possibly facing questions and judgment, it terrified me. But then I thought, why should I be afraid? I didn't do anything wrong. I survived. I thrived. I built a life I'm proud of. Why should I hide? So I accepted. I flew back to Austin on a crisp October morning, the city skyline appearing through the airplane window, like a ghost of my past life. But this time, I wasn't running away. I was walking back in on my own terms, telling my own story, owning my own truth. The conference was held at a downtown hotel. 300 people in the audience, business owners, entrepreneurs, survivors, people who'd overcome obstacles and built something meaningful. I stood backstage, heart pounding, palms sweating, going over my speech one more time. This was it, the moment where I shared my story with strangers, where I stood up in front of hundreds of people and said, "My family tried to destroy me, and I stopped them." The introduction finished. My name echoed through the speakers. I walked out onto that stage, the lights bright in my eyes, and I saw them. All those faces, all those people, waiting to hear what I had to say. I took a breath, and I began. 3 years ago, I woke up to the sound of my family trying to break into my home. Not strangers, not criminals. My mother and my brother, trying to force their way in, so I would sign papers that would give them access to my house, my credit, my entire financial future. You could have heard a pin drop in that room. Every eye was on me. Every person leaning forward, waiting for what came next. I want to tell you that I immediately knew what to do, that I was brave and strong and confident, but I wasn't. I was terrified. I was confused. I spent years being told that family comes first, that you don't say no to family, that setting boundaries with family makes you selfish and ungrateful. I saw heads nodding, people recognizing their own stories in mine. But that morning, something changed. I realized that real love doesn't require you to destroy yourself. Real family doesn't steal from you. Real support doesn't come with manipulation and guilt. And I decided, right then, that I was worth fighting for. I told them everything. The fraud, the harassment, the legal battle, the fake reviews that almost destroyed my business, the family members who turned against me, the nights I cried myself to sleep wondering if I'd made the right choice. And then, I told them about the other side. About Pratt. About New York. About building a business that helps people reclaim their identities. About learning that sometimes the family you choose is stronger than the family you're born into. "I'm not going to tell you that standing up for yourself is easy," I said, looking out at those 300 faces. "It's not. It's one of the hardest things you'll ever do. You'll lose people. You'll face judgment. You'll have moments where you question everything. I paused, making sure they heard what came next. But you know what's harder? Living a life that isn't yours. Sacrificing your dreams for people who don't appreciate the sacrifice. Giving up your future to fund someone else's present. That's harder. And the cost of that? That cost never ends. The applause started before I finished speaking. It built and built. People standing, clapping, some of them crying. I saw a woman in the third row with tears streaming down her face, nodding like I'd just spoken her own truth. After my talk, I was swarmed. People wanting to share their stories, to tell me about their own families, their own battles, their own victories. A man told me he'd been estranged from his parents for 5 years after they tried to force him into a career he didn't want, and he'd felt guilty every day until now. A woman thanked me for giving her the courage to finally report her sister's financial abuse. A young person, barely 20, said they were saving my speech to watch every time they felt weak about going back to their toxic family. I talked to them for hours, shared resources, gave advice, listened to stories that broke my heart and inspired me at the same time. This was why I'd gone through everything, this moment right here. The moment where my pain became someone else's permission to choose themselves. If you're breaking free from toxic patterns, drop a comment, and let's support each other. Your courage inspires others. As the crowd finally thinned, I saw her, standing in the back of the room, half hidden behind a pillar. My mother. She looked older, grayer, smaller, or maybe I'd just gotten bigger, stronger, more solid in myself. We locked eyes across the room. I waited for the panic, the fear, the old instinct to apologize, to smooth things over, to make her comfortable. It didn't come. Instead, I felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, just a calm, quiet sense of completion. This chapter was closed. She couldn't hurt me anymore. She started walking toward me. I considered leaving, escaping out the side door, but no, I'd earned the right to stand my ground. This was my moment, my triumph, my stage. She was the intruder here, not me. She stopped a few feet away, wringing her hands. That old gesture that used to pull at my heartstrings. Now it just looked manipulative, calculated. Abby, I heard you were speaking. I wanted to see you. Okay. My voice was flat, neutral. I gave her nothing. That was quite a speech. You made our family sound like monsters. There it was. Not, I'm sorry. Not, I was wrong. Just concern about how she looked. How the family looked. Appearances over truth, always. I told the truth, I said simply. If the truth makes you look like a monster, maybe you should examine your actions. She flinched. You don't understand. I was trying to help. Your brother needed... Stop. I held up my hand. I don't care what my brother needed. I don't care what justifications you've created in your mind. What you did was illegal. What you did was wrong. And I'm done discussing it. So that's it? You're just going to cut me off forever? I'm your mother. You're the woman who gave birth to me, I said, and my voice was steady as stone. But mothers don't commit fraud against their children. Mothers don't try to steal their children's homes. Mothers don't launch harassment campaigns when their children set boundaries. You stopped being my mother the moment you chose to victimize me. I saw tears forming in her eyes. Real or fake, I couldn't tell anymore, and I realized I didn't care. I forgive you, I said, and I meant it, not for her sake, but for mine. I forgive you because holding on to anger was poisoning me. But forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. Forgiveness doesn't mean trust. It just means I'm letting go of the hold you had on me. Please, Abby. Can't we? No, we can't. Goodbye, Mom. I walked past her, out of that conference room, into the Austin sunshine, and it felt like walking out of a prison I'd been carrying inside myself for 30+ years. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. That chapter was closed. The book was finished. And I was starting a new story. One where I was the author, the protagonist, and the hero, all at once. Have you ever had to walk away from someone who hurt you? Share your moment of freedom in the comments below. 6 months later, I was sitting in my Brooklyn apartment, a bigger one now, with actual windows, and a kitchen I could turn around in, working on a branding project for a nonprofit that helped domestic violence survivors rebuild their lives. My phone rang, a number I didn't recognize, but it had an Austin area code. For a second, I almost didn't answer. but curiosity won out. Hello? Abby? This is Detective Morrison from the Austin Police Department. I worked on your fraud case a couple years back. My stomach clenched. Yes, I remember. Is everything okay? I wanted to give you a call personally. Your mother violated the terms of her probation. She was caught attempting to open a credit card in your cousin's name. She's been arrested, and will likely face prison time this time around. I should have felt something. Vindication, satisfaction, maybe even a twisted sort of victory. But all I felt was tired. So tired of the whole thing. Thank you for letting me know, I said. I also wanted to tell you, Detective Morrison continued, that your case changed how we handle financial abuse cases in families. Your documentation, your evidence collection, it's now part of our training materials. You helped us understand how to take these cases seriously, how to support victims even when the perpetrators are family members. So, thank you, you made a difference. After we hung up, I sat there for a long time, staring out my window at the Brooklyn street below. People rushing to work, couples holding hands, a mom pushing a stroller, normal life happening all around me. My pain had become someone's training material. My nightmare had become someone's roadmap out of their own nightmare. The worst thing that ever happened to me had somehow become a tool to help others. And I realized, this is what healing looks like. Not forgetting, not pretending it didn't happen, but transforming the pain into something useful. Taking the broken pieces and building something new. I opened my laptop and started writing. Not a design brief this time, but a blog post. How to protect yourself when family becomes fraud, a survivor's guide. I wrote about freezing your credit, about documenting everything, about the legal resources available, about the emotional toll, and how to find support. I wrote the guide I wished I'd had 3 years ago when I was sitting on my floor, devastated and alone, wondering what to do. I published it on my website, shared it on social media, and then I went back to work, not expecting much response. By the next morning, it had been shared 10,000 times. My inbox was flooded with messages from people thanking me, asking questions, sharing their own stories. I'd touched a nerve, a huge, raw, bleeding nerve that I didn't even know existed. Apparently, financial abuse by family members was far more common than anyone wanted to admit. Apparently, thousands of people were living my nightmare right now, feeling trapped, feeling alone, feeling like they couldn't speak up because it's just family. I started a newsletter, then a podcast, then a support group. My design business became part of something bigger, a whole platform dedicated to helping people reclaim their identities after family trauma, reclaim their finances, reclaim their lives. 2 years after that speech in Austin, I published a book, No Blood Obligation, Breaking Free from Toxic Family Ties. It became a bestseller. I went on a book tour, speaking in 30 cities, meeting thousands of people who'd lived some version of my story. And everywhere I went, I heard the same thing. I thought I was alone. I thought I was the only one. Thank you for showing me I'm not. That's the thing about trauma. It isolates you. It makes you believe you're the only person who's ever experienced this particular pain, this particular betrayal. But when you speak your truth, when you share your story, you discover that you're part of a community of survivors, a community of fighters, a community of people who chose themselves when choosing themselves was the hardest thing in the world. 5 years after that morning when I woke up to my family trying to break down my door, I stood on a stage again. This time, it was a TED Talk. The topic, the courage to disappoint your family. I talked about obligation versus love. About how we're taught from childhood that family is everything, that blood is thicker than water, that you don't turn your back on family no matter what they do. And how those beliefs, while well-intentioned, can become prisons that trap us in cycles of abuse. The full phrase, I told the audience, is the blood of the covenant, is thicker than the water of the womb. It means the bonds we choose are stronger than the bonds we're born into. Somewhere along the way, we forgot that, we shortened it, we twisted it, we used it as a weapon to keep people from leaving situations that were destroying them. I looked out at the thousands of faces in the audience, and the millions who would eventually watch online. I'm here to tell you, you have permission to choose yourself. You have permission to set boundaries, even with family. You have permission to walk away from people who hurt you, even if you share DNA. You have permission to build a life that's yours, not theirs. The standing ovation lasted for 3 minutes. 3 minutes of people on their feet, clapping, crying, celebrating the permission they'd just been given to prioritize their own well-being. After the talk, a young woman approached me. She couldn't have been more than 25. She was crying so hard she could barely speak. "My parents are trying to force me to give them my inheritance from my grandmother," she finally managed to say. "They say I owe them because they raised me. They've taken out credit cards in my name. They've threatened to disown me if I don't cooperate. And I've been considering just giving in because I'm so tired of fighting." I took her hands in mine and looked her in the eyes. "Don't give in," I said. "Fight. Document everything. Report the fraud. Set the boundaries. It will be hard, God. It will be so hard, but on the other side of that fight is your life. Your life. The one you deserve. The one they have no right to take from you." She nodded, still crying. "I'm scared." I know. I was scared too. But you know what I learned? Being scared and doing it anyway, that's what courage is. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's looking at the fear and saying, "You don't get to control me anymore." She hugged me tight. "Thank you. Thank you for showing me it's possible." And that's when I knew. All the pain, all the trauma, all the sleepless nights and terrifying confrontations, it was worth it. Not because it made me stronger, though it did. Not because it led to success, though it did that too. But because my story gave someone else the courage to write their own. Your breakthrough is coming. I promise you, it's coming. If you're still fighting, hit that subscribe button and know you're not alone in this battle. Today, I run a multi-million-dollar company that combines design services with advocacy and education around family financial abuse. I employ 23 people, most of them survivors of similar situations. We've helped over 10,000 people reclaim their identities and their finances. I live in a penthouse in Manhattan with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the city that still takes my breath away. I travel the world speaking about empowerment and boundaries and the courage it takes to choose yourself. And sometimes, late at night, I think about that morning 5 years ago. The beeping, the pounding, the fear, the moment when everything changed. I think about the woman I was, then scared, manipulated, trapped in patterns she didn't know how to break. And I'm grateful to her. Grateful that she found the strength to open that door with her phone recording. Grateful that she refused to sign those papers. Grateful that she chose herself when choosing herself seemed impossible. Because that choice, that one terrifying, painful, lonely choice, led to this life, this freedom, this ability to help others make the same choice. I haven't spoken to my mother or brother in 5 years. I don't know if I ever will again. And I'm okay with that. Some relationships can't be repaired. Some betrayals are too deep. And that's okay. You don't owe anyone a relationship. Not even family. Especially not family that hurts you. I have a new family now, chosen family, friends who show up when I need them, colleagues who support my vision, a partner who understands my past and loves me anyway, a community of survivors who lift each other up instead of tearing each other down. This is what healing looks like. Not perfect, not without scars, but real. Authentic. Mine. If you're reading this, if you're listening to this, and you're in a situation like I was, I want you to know. You deserve better. You deserve safety. You deserve respect. You deserve a life that's yours, not something you're holding for someone else until they decide to take it. And if you're scared to take that first step, if you're worried about what people will say or think or do, remember this. The people who truly love you will support your healing. The people who get angry when you set boundaries are the people who were benefiting from you having none. Set the boundary anyway. Document the abuse anyway. Report the fraud anyway. Choose yourself anyway. Because on the other side of that choice is freedom. And freedom real. Genuine, hard-won freedom is worth every uncomfortable conversation, every lost relationship, every moment of fear. Thank you for following this journey. Make sure to subscribe for more real-life stories of empowerment. And remember, if you're ready to take control of your own story, now is the time. I am Laura, and this is Abby's story. But maybe it's your story too. Maybe you've lived some version of this nightmare. Maybe you're living it right now. If you are, please hear me. You are not alone. You are not crazy. You are not selfish for wanting to protect yourself. And you have every right to choose your own life over someone else's expectations. The road ahead might be hard. It might be lonely. It might cost you relationships you thought were permanent. But I promise you, the alternative, living a life that isn't yours, sacrificing your dreams for people who don't appreciate the sacrifice, staying small so others can feel big, that cost is higher. That price never stops being paid. So take the first step. Make the call, file the report, set the boundary, document the abuse, choose yourself. And when you're on the other side, when you're standing in your own life, that you built with your own hands, when you're finally free, remember to reach back. Tell your story. Help the next person who needs permission to save themselves. Because that's how we break these cycles. Not by suffering in silence, not by keeping family secrets, but by speaking our truth, loud and clear, and showing others that survival is possible. That healing is possible, that a life beyond the trauma is not just possible, it's waiting for you. If this story resonated with you, like, share, and comment below. I want to hear your story. And remember, you have the power to take control, no matter what. Subscribe for more empowering content. This is Laura, signing off. Choose yourself. Always choose yourself. You're worth it.